I heard that Sophia had an accident.
His voice sounded strangely cheerful and excited. It is clearly not the husband's reaction when he hears that his wife has been in an accident. He continued with his remarks.
Sophia has always been careless and clumsy, you know. I always thought she would have an accident someday.
How come he knows about the accident? Or is this just a coincidence? He has a sister who acted as a mother figure to him after their parents passed away. Maybe growing up with just the two of them as a family made him strict with people other than his sister, and I was no exception. However, now I have something important to tell him. I have to say it no matter what. Listen, Greg.
Wait, what? Who is this?
It's not me who had the accident. It's your sister. My name is Sophia, and I am a housewife. I live with my husband Greg and our second-grade daughter Erin. Greg took over his late father's company 5 years ago, and he is now the president. Today, Kara, my sister-in-law who lives nearby, came to visit. Wow, the salad is delicious! Sophia, have you improved your cooking skills again?
Thank you, Kara.
Her compliment made me happy, and a smile appeared on my face. Kara is kind and a good person, and our relationship is good. However, my husband...
Flattery won't get you anywhere, sis. This one here is a complete failure.
My husband said with a sneer, as if mocking me. Don't say such a thing, Greg. I'm sorry for my rude brother, Sophia. No, it's okay, really.
Kara is so kind. Sophia, why don't you learn a thing or two from her?
Upon hearing my husband's words, I let out a small sigh. My husband idolizes her, so he's always in a good mood when she's around. But he still continues to insult me, telling me to learn from Kara and calling me a failure. Then Kara shifted the topic and turned out to her daughter. By the way, Erin, wasn't it your ballet recital recently? I watched the video. You were amazing. Auntie Kara, you watched it. I'm so happy. Thank you. Our daughter attends a local ballet class. There was a recital recently, so I recorded a video and sent it to my sister-in-law.
I wish I didn't have to work.
My husband said in an emotionless voice while tinkering with his phone. Liar. He had the audacity to say he was tired and wanted to sleep at home. Well, not only that, but my husband has never once attended Erin's recital. He may act all high and mighty in front of my sister-in-law, but he has no interest in our daughter. He hadn't attended any school events, let alone spend quality time with us on days off. When my husband went to the bathroom, my sister-in-law discreetly approached me and asked, Does Greg really show an interest in Erin's recitals? Well, actually, my words made my sister-in-law appear apologetic. He lost her mother at a young age and was raised strictly without love from her father. Maybe he doesn't know how to love a child. It seems like he's causing Erin sadness. I'm truly sorry. No, Kara, there's no need for you to apologize. My husband's camouflage was transparent to his sister. There may be some truth to not knowing how to love, but it's my husband's own fault for not making the effort. The problem lies with him. Then, one day, I received a message from my husband saying he forgot some documents at home and to bring them immediately. Indeed, a brown envelope containing the documents was left on the desk. After dropping off her daughter at ballet class, I head to my husband's company. I approached the receptionist and was directed to a room where I had to wait for a while. Excuse me, Mrs. Perkins? A young female secretary approached me. Her nails were painted and her makeup was flawless. She seemed like a flashy person. The president is currently busy, so I'll accept the documents on his behalf.
Oh, yes, thank you very much.
As I handed her the documents, the secretary looked me up and down with an impolite gaze. Her intrusive stare made me feel uncomfortable.
Is there something?
Oh no, it's just that when they mentioned the president's wife, I had a certain image in mind. Turns out, you're just a regular person. The woman smirked sarcastically without even saying goodbye and walked away. What was that? How rude! Feeling irritated, I stopped by the restroom in the hallway. As I entered one of the stalls, it seemed that a few employees had also entered. And there, I overheard a shocking conversation. The contents of the conversation was about my husband having an affair with the secretary I just encountered. It seems like their relationship had started when he became the president, and some people had even seen them together on their days off. Greg is cheating? Come to think of it, there were some things that made me suspicious recently. Since taking on the role of president, my husband often claimed to be working on holidays and would frequently go out. Around that time, he started making more snide remarks and insults towards me. He also became reckless with money and started giving me only the bare minimum for living expenses. I had thought it was just the stress of becoming a president causing all these changes. I never imagined he could be having an affair. That's why she looked at me earlier with that judgmental gaze. I can't believe it. How low can he sink? I was actually disgusted by my husband. I wanted to get a divorce, but as a housewife, I didn't have any money. Making a decision to divorce, especially for the sake of my daughter, wasn't something I could do immediately. The next day, I suddenly decided to check the secret stash of money I had hidden in the dresser. Every month, I discreetly managed our household finances and saved a portion of it. I had hoped that one day we could use this money for a family trip. However, now that I had discovered my husband's affair, I didn't know what I would use the money for. That's why I wanted to confirm the amount once again. As soon as I held the envelope that I had hidden, my eyes widened in disbelief. What? How did this happen? The money's gone. I stared at the empty envelope in shock. I had finally accumulated $8,000, and now it had completely disappeared. I couldn't believe that someone had broken into our house. So then, who could it be? There's no way my daughter would do something like that. It's not her then. Hey, Greg, do you know anything about the money that was in the dresser? That night, I asked my husband about it. He seemed uncomfortable and avoided eye contact when I asked. I didn't let that go unnoticed.
What? I don't know anything about the money.
That's a lie. You just looked away, didn't you? Did you take it? As I confronted him, my husband clicked his tongue and gave me a glare.
Are you accusing me of being a thief?
I say I don't know anything about it. He appeared agitated and clearly suspicious in his behavior. That alone made it evident that he had taken the money. He knew about the secret stash I had been keeping. He must have used it for his affair or something. I can't forgive him. I had noticed his reckless spending recently. The money was for our family trip. Give it back.
Don't you treat me like a thief.
He wasn't backing down either. But this time, I couldn't stay silent either. Do you understand that is theft? If you took the money without my knowledge, that's stealing, right?
Shut up. Besides, it's my money, isn't it?
So it was you after all. What did you even use it for?
Knock it off.
It's none of your business." Saying that, my husband pushed me with all his strength. Losing balance from his push, I tumbled down the stairs. "Mommy, are you okay?" My daughter, startled by the loud noise, rushed over. Trying to reassure my nearby crying daughter, I tried to stand up. But then, a sharp pain shot through my leg. It seemed like I had sprained it.
Jeez, you're making a big deal out of nothing.
My husband gave us a cold glance and left the house. Anger began to bubble up inside me. Unbelievable. I had been enduring it for the sake of my daughter, but I had reached my limit. I made up my mind and contacted my sister-in-law. I poured out everything about my husband's behavior up until now. My sister-in-law repeatedly apologized, shocked by how badly she had raised him. When my husband returned, he was furious, having been severely scolded by his sister.
You don't say unnecessary things to my sister. You're the worst for causing my sister to worry.
Huh, who is really the worst here? He clearly didn't like being scolded by his sister. From that day on, my husband's verbal abuse became even worse.
You are a stay-at-home wife, yet you're terrible at cleaning. My sister, on the other hand, manages both housework and child rearing perfectly while helping her husband with his work. How many times do I have to say it for you to understand? My sister cares about her appearance. That's why she's still so beautiful. And what about you? You don't even bother putting on proper makeup, do you?
He seemed to find solace in belittling me by comparing me to his sister. I once again realized that my husband is obsessed with his sister. My sister-in-law was also troubled by his intense attachment to her. It was raining that day. Since I was still nursing my sprained leg, I decided to ask my sister-in-law to pick up and drop off our daughter at our ballet class. The studio was about a 15-minute walk away, so I usually walk there to pick her up. "Kara, I'm sorry, but I have a favor to ask. Can you please pick up Erin for me?" "Of course. With your leg? This rain must be tough for you." "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it." Upon hearing that, my sister-in-law happily offers to help out. While doing household chores, I was waiting for my daughter to come back home, but she didn't show up. It's not that far of a distance, so it's strange. As I was thinking about it, my phone rang. It was a call from my daughter's ballet class. They informed me that my daughter hasn't been picked up yet, even though some time has passed since my sister went to pick her up. I wondered if something had happened. I quickly told the teacher that I would go pick her up right away and hung up the phone. Then I immediately received another incoming call. I thought it might be Kara, but it was her husband. Feeling a sense of unease, I answered the phone. "Oh my gosh, an accident?" That was the news that Kara had been in a traffic accident. Her husband called me because he couldn't go to the hospital himself due to his current business trip. I decided to confirm Kara's safety first before informing my husband about her accident. I knew he would make a big fuss about it. I went to pick up my daughter and rushed to the hospital. Fortunately, my sister-in-law didn't have any life-threatening injuries. She had only suffered a broken leg. According to the doctor, she was involved in a hit-and-run accident while on her way to pick up my daughter. "Kara, thank God you're alive." "I'm sorry, Sophia. I made you worry." "No, I'm sorry. It's because I asked you to pick her up. I feel awful." "No, that's not true. It's not your fault. I'm okay." My sister-in-law spoke kindly to me. At that moment, my husband's call came to her phone. He immediately started speaking when I answered for her.
"Hello, sis. I heard that Sophia had an accident.
His voice sounded somewhat gleeful and excited.
Well, Sophia has always been careless and clumsy, you know. I've always thought she would get into an accident someday.
Hey, it wasn't me who had the accident, but it's your sister, you know.
Wait, what? The voice... Is it Sophia? What's going on? How come you were okay?
Hey, Greg, what's happening here? How do you know about the accident? I haven't informed my husband about Kara's accident yet. Moreover, he said, how come you are okay? He seems surprised that I'm okay. While suspecting something strange about my husband's words and actions, he rushed to the hospital with a pale face.
Kara, you're safe, right?
After confirming my sister-in-law's safety, my husband was on the verge of tears. Greg, can you explain first? How did you know about the accident? And you seemed surprised that I'm okay. With my fierce tone, my husband tried to evade something. Clearly, my husband knows something and is hiding it. Did you mistake your sister for me? Don't tell me you had something to do with this accident. As I pointed out, my husband started trembling. My sister-in-law and I have similar heights and hairstyles. With the rain and using the umbrella, it wouldn't be strange to mistake us.
No, it wasn't me. She did it on her own. If she caused the accident with you, Sophia, so I could get a divorce and remarry. And I would also get the insurance money. That's what she said. But I never imagined that my sister would be the one in the accident.
As my husband confessed, my sister-in-law was left speechless and dumbfounded. The she he mentioned must refer to his affair partner. That's it. Let's get a divorce. I knew about your affair, Greg. I already discussed it with your sister. And we gathered solid evidence. So you were in debt too, huh? There's no way you can deny it anymore. I'll make sure to receive proper compensation and child support.
Wait, Sophia? Just not that. Erin still needs her father, right?
Then our daughter, who had been quietly in the back of the room, spoke calmly. I don't need daddy. Having mommy is enough. Bye, daddy. My husband was stunned, but I think it's only natural. He never showed any interest in our daughter. When it came to her divorce, he conveniently clung to her as a reason. It was too convenient for him. I had been considering staying in the marriage for the sake of our daughter, but it turns out she had already given up on him. My sister-in-law firmly told my husband, Greg, I can't deal with such a foolish brother anymore. I thought I could support you and your company. But from now on, I won't have anything to do with it. Let's cut ties.
Kara! No, not like this.
Kara's husband also owned a company and had business dealings with my husband's company. If those dealings were to stop, my husband's company would suffer significant losses. The future of the business would become difficult. However, my husband seemed more shocked by being rejected by his important sister than the impact on his company. He slumped down in despair on the spot. Later, the affair partner was arrested on hit-and-run charges. With the loss of major clients, my husband's company went bankrupt. I successfully divorced him, received compensation and child support in one lump sum. Of course, I also received compensation from the affair partner. Thanks to my sister-in-law's introduction, I was able to find a good job with a favorable condition. My daughter's smiles have increased, and she lives each day with vitality. I opened my phone and sighed loudly. 20 calls again today. The screen shows a large number of incoming calls. All of them are from my mother-in-law. She left several messages on my answering machine, all demanding money.
Where is the $3,000 for my husband's hospital bills? We can't live like this. You are abandoning me. You heartless wife. I'll never forgive you. You should transfer the money to my account as soon as possible.
I opened the voicemail with a completely cold feeling in my heart. What in the world is this person talking about? Does she really not think we don't know? I picked up my phone with the intention of putting an end to all this. My name is Megan. I'm 30 years old and I work as a freelance web designer. I've loved drawing since I was a child. And after graduating from high school, I enrolled in a design school. After graduation, I worked for a production company, but left 2 years ago and started working as a freelancer. At the time, I was quite reluctant to quit my job, but it was my husband, Robert, who gave me the push I needed. I met Robert 5 years ago, and after 2 years of dating, we were now married. After a year of being a married couple, I began to worry about my career and asked him for advice. Hey, Robert, I don't like the way the company is structured, and I'd like to start my own business. Is that too risky?
Of course not. There are plenty of people working freelance nowadays.
That may be true, but if it's just me, it's fine. But now I'm married and living with you, Robert. I don't want to trouble you.
It's something you can pursue because you're married. You're not alone. If you fail at starting your own business, wouldn't it make you feel a little better to know that I'm there for you? I think you should do whatever you want to do. You're still young. And if you fail, you can start over as much as you want.
These words from my husband encouraged me to take this opportunity to make a decision to turn my life around. When I first started freelancing, things didn't go well, and my salary was zero for days on end. Even so, I used the social media and advertised on my blog and website. And gradually, the number of requests for design and restoration work increased. 2 years have passed since then. And what started out as cheap restoration commissions have now grown to several $100s per commission, sometimes even 1,000. Of course, there is joy in the constant flow of work. But more than that, I was filled with gratitude to my husband. Then one day, I was working during the day when I received a call on my phone from an unknown number. I answered the call, taking into account the possibility that it was a work-related call, since it was not blocked. Yes, hello? Then I heard a familiar voice on the phone.
Oh, hello, Megan? It's Linda.
Linda? How did you get my number?
I asked Robert for it. I need to talk to you for a minute.
Can you hold on a second, please?
I quickly opened my phone to find a message from my husband. When I checked the contents, it said, "My mom asked for your contact information, and I gave it to her. And it also included my mother-in-law's phone number." I put my phone to my ear again and continued talking to my mother-in-law.
I'm sorry, Linda. I didn't check the message from Robert.
It's okay. I know you're busy at work. Robert told me that you've been busy with more and more work since you started freelancing.
Well, thankfully, with Robert's support, I've been able to do what I want to do.
Wow, that's just perfect.
Huh? I was curious about my mother-in-law's expression, so I asked her about it, and she immediately opened her mouth.
Actually, I haven't told Robert yet, but his father, Stephen, is not doing so well.
What's wrong with Stephen?
He went to the hospital the other day and they found out he had cancer. And he said he didn't want Robert to find out about it.
Oh, so that's what happened? Oh my gosh. Shouldn't he get treated as soon as possible?
Yeah, I know. But I don't have any income. And his savings. Well, he built you guys a house when you got married. So now he doesn't have any.
She's right. The house we are living in now was built by my father-in-law as a wedding gift. He didn't say anything about the money. That's why my husband and I didn't think his savings were that low. We never imagined that he would be unable to treat his illness because of the house he built for us. As I was feeling sorry for him, my mother-in-law continued.
I'm sorry, but I'd like you to help pay for Steven's treatment.
What, me?
We've already spent most of our savings on your new house. And Steven doesn't want Robert to know he's sick.
But I think it's better to let Robert know about the illness than me.
I'm just trying to be considerate of Steven's feelings. Come on, Megan. If you're so busy every day, you must have lots of income. I mean,
I'd be lying if I said I didn't make a lot of money. I'm making many times more than I did when I was working in the office. But I'm the only one who knows about my father-in-law's illness. And I'm the only one who has to pay for his treatment. While I was thinking about this for a while, my mother-in-law followed up with a sigh.
Megan, if we can't get Steven the treatment he needs, it could get worse. What would Robert think? Do you know what the worst case scenario would be? I wish I could count on Robert too. But Steven doesn't want to.
But,
Megan, you're the only one I can ask. I'm begging you, please, pay for his treatment.
After that, my mother-in-law asked me for help several times. And there was no way I could refuse. I wanted to help my father-in-law, so I decided to accept the offer of assistance.
I'll send you the amount and account number later, so please transfer the money as soon as possible.
My mother-in-law said and hung up the phone. A sigh escaped my mouth as I finished the exchange. Was this really the right thing to do? But if I hadn't provided the money, Steven would have. He's been good to me since we were first married, and I want him to get better somehow. I can't discuss my father-in-law illness with my husband because I have promised with my mother-in-law. The next day, I received a message from my mother-in-law with her bank account number and a request for $500 to be transferred to her account. The initial $500 was increased to $1,000 2 months later, and now, 6 months later, it has jumped to $3,000. I was beginning to have my doubts, as I should have expected, because the costs were so high. Unfortunately, my parents-in-law's house is far away, and I can only visit them once a year at the end of the year. But I have to work. And if I took my husband with me, he would find out that his father is ill. Since my father-in-law himself says he doesn't want Robert to know, I have to avoid that at all costs. However, sending $3,000 every month is a lot to ask for. So I called my mother-in-law. Excuse me, Linda. Sending $3,000 every month from now on is indeed...
How can you say that? When Steven is doing his best to get better?
My mother-in-law's question made me flinch. But it doesn't cost that much just to go to the hospital, does it? Do you really need $3,000?
What a terrible thing to say. I'm telling you, Steven has been in the hospital for a while now.
That's why we need the $3,000.
I feel bad for asking too, but I don't know who else to turn to.
On the other end of the phone, my mother-in-law started bawling. I couldn't question her any further, so I had no choice but to hang up the phone. I don't know what to do now. I'm worried about my father-in-law, but it's going to be hard to keep transferring $3,000 for years to come. I felt bad for him, but I knew I had to talk to Robert. That night, I decided to confide in my husband. He came home after 8 p.m., and I immediately started talking to him.
Hey, Robert,
it's about your father.
My dad? What's wrong?
I was wondering if you'd like to go see him? Maybe this weekend?
What's going on? It's the end of the year in a few months. And then we'll go visit anyway, right?
No, but by then the cancer... My husband's eyes widened and asked me questions. So I told him that my mother-in-law had called and that I was transferring a large sum of money every month. Then my husband hurriedly took his phone and started calling my parents-in-law's landline. My father-in-law doesn't have a smartphone, so that's the only place he can be reached. But no matter how many times we called, there was no answer. I suppose that's just as well. According to my mother-in-law, my father-in-law is in the hospital. So I called her and she didn't pick up, which made me nervous. We decided to go to my parents-in-law's house on the weekend. My husband rang the intercom as soon as we arrived. As we waited impatiently for my mother-in-law to come out, an unexpected person appeared at the front door.
Oh, Robert and Megan. What's going on?
I was so surprised to see my father-in-law in front of me that I was at a loss for words. Confused, I tried to desperately squeeze out a few words. Stephen, why aren't you in the hospital?
In a hospital? How could I be in the hospital when I'm too healthy to have a medical checkup?
What does he mean?
Oh, is,
Linda here? I need to see Linda.
What?
I need to check something with Linda. She told me that you had cancer, and I'd been giving her thousands of dollars a month in support. As soon as I said all that, my father-in-law frowned. He thought about it for a moment, and then he invited us in. But no matter where I looked, my mother-in-law was nowhere to be seen. In fact, there was no one there but my father-in-law. Where is Linda? I asked, and my father-in-law bowed his head in apology. I was puzzled as to what was going on, but my father-in-law began to speak slowly.
Actually, we're spreading right now and thinking of divorce. She's been spending all my savings in my account.
No way! But Linda told me you had cancer, and I was transferring $3,000 every month to pay for your treatment and hospital stay. I called and no one answered the phone, so that's why we came today.
That's all a lie. I don't know where she is now, but we started living separately about 6 months ago. I didn't want you guys to worry, so I kept it quiet. The phone at home just broke the other day, and I'm trying to fix it.
So you're saying that Linda's whole story is a lie?
Yeah, that's right. She probably lied to get the money transferred to her, and she's probably living off of it somewhere right now.
I was speechless at the truth. I had no idea that my mother-in-law had been deceiving me for 6 months. The moment I realized what had happened, my blood started to boil. I couldn't believe it. That it had all been a lie. She told me that Steven's savings account was empty. But in the end, it was her who spent the money. This is unforgivable. I'll never transfer any money to her again. I couldn't stop being angry at the fact that she lied about my father-in-law being sick and used me for her own convenience. After talking it over with my father-in-law and my husband, I decided to stop any more transfer to my mother-in-law. We also decided to ignore any contact from my mother-in-law. Even after a month had passed since I stopped the transfer, my mother-in-law still called me every day. She was so persistent that I set my phone to silent mode and went about my business. The number of calls from my mother-in-law increased day by day, and on this particular day, I opened my phone again and sighed heavily. There were 20 calls today, and the screen would show a large number of incoming calls. All from my mother-in-law, of course. Several of them had messages left on the answering machine, all demanding money.
Have you paid my husband's hospital bill of $3,000 yet? We can't live like this. Are you going to abandon us? You heartless wife. I won't forgive you. You should transfer the money to my account as soon as possible.
I opened the voicemail with completely cold feeling in my heart. What in the world is this person talking about? Does she really not think we don't know? I guess it's not a good idea to keep her on her toes any longer. Determined to put an end to all this, I picked up my phone and called my mother-in-law. And my mother-in-law answered the phone as if she had been waiting for me. Hello.
Why are you ignoring my calls? Don't you care about Steven?
I don't think she realizes that my husband and I already know the truth. I responded in a nonchalant manner. Linda, please come down.
How can I be calm? If you don't transfer the money, Stephen will be kicked out of the hospital.
What are you talking about? Isn't Stephen fine?
Huh? Megan, what are you talking?
You lied about the cancer in the first place. Did you think that since we live so far away, we wouldn't find out? My mother-in-law must have sensed something bad from what I said. Her bossy attitude disappeared, and she became somewhat distant.
Megan, I'm sorry, but I think I misspoke. Stephen is not actually in the hospital, but it's true that he has cancer, so...
Oh, I see. Stephen said he was completely healthy though.
Yeah, no, just wire me the money. Otherwise, we can't survive.
You mean you can't survive, right? You've been spending Stephen's savings, and now you're trying to rip me off too.
How do you?
Because I talked to Stephen in person. He was a little plumper than when I saw him at the end of last year. He says it's because he's less stressed now that you're gone. Even my mother-in-law started to wince when I told her that much. I knew I was wasting my time talking to her, so I said, I'm not going to do what you say anymore. I have no intention of helping you or having anything to do with you in the future. So please, don't contact me again. Oh, and I will charge you for all the money I have transferred so far.
Wait a minute. If you do that, my life will...
I don't care about that. Stephen and Robert are fed up with you. They want nothing to do with you ever again. So, from now on, you're on your own. Goodbye.
Megan, wait a minute.
I interrupted my mother-in-law, who was already in the middle of a sentence, and I hung up the phone. I blocked her number and cut off all relations with her. Afterwards, my father-in-law and mother-in-law officially divorced. I consulted a lawyer and demanded full repayment of all the money I had transferred to my mother-in-law. Apparently, my mother-in-law had contacted my father-in-law to ask for a loan as well. And thanks to him, we were able to locate her current address. Since it was too much to pay back in one lump sum, my mother-in-law had to go to work. She has been a housewife all her life, and there is no way she can get a full-time job now, so she is working several part-time jobs to make ends meet. I hope that she will spend the rest of her life paying back the money and reflecting on her own actions, but she's still as busy as ever. Now that my mother-in-law is gone, my days are back to being peaceful. My husband and I are talking about scheduling more frequent visits to my father-in-law's house in the future. While my father-in-law is still in good health, I want to show him as much filial piety as I can.